Welcome to SRP Tips from Markers, and today we are going to consider risk assessment. Now, as Australian students, you are well aware of the risks involved with living in a bushfire-prone area, and at all times we try to reduce the risk of bushfires, and we think about moving towards the green area on this risk assessment chart that you sometimes see around on the side of the street. How does this work for our experiments? Well, you can think about two aspects of risk. How likely is the risk to actually happen in the first place? And if it were to happen, what would be the impact of that risk happening? What injuries would it cause to you or to the environment, or what damage would it do to equipment? So let's take, for example, acid. If you had to move acid from a large container into a small container for you to do your experiment, it's probably quite likely that you would spill if you were just to pour one big beaker into another container. So you could reduce the likelihood of spillage happening by using different apparatus, different equipment. So you could perhaps use a funnel to help you pour accurately, or you could use a syringe or a pipette. That means you're going to reduce the likelihood, and you can see how that would move you away from the critical zone here and down towards a more acceptable risk level. The other thing you could do is, it might be possible for you to use a different type of acid, one that has fewer consequences. So the impact of a spillage on your skin or a splash into your eye perhaps might be reduced if you used an acid that wasn't so concentrated or wasn't as strong. The other thing you can do, if you're talking about splashes and hitting your eye, is to change how you are dressed. It won't hit your eye if you're wearing eye protection. So there are things you can do to reduce the likelihood of damage, injury, and that's what we try to do all the time, move away from the pink zone and into the green. In fact, if you're doing something which you think is going to hit the pink zone, you need to not do it and change the way that you are doing it. So how do we communicate this to the markers? We need to use a RIP table, and it does not stand for rest in peace, because that's what we're trying to avoid. It stands for risk, injury, and prevention or protection. So I've got another example here. We've got risk, injury, prevention or protection. Our example here is adding string, weights to a string. And if the string were to break, when the weights get heavier and heavier, it might land on your foot and hurt your foot. So this person has said to be careful. Well, that's rubbish, because that's never going to get you a mark. So be really aware of what you say as prevention or protection. It has to be specific, and it has to explain how you have reduced the risk. So a much better way to communicate would be to say, use strong fishing wire instead of string. And you can see instantly this person understands that breaking is the critical thing. Or here they're changing what they do in terms of what they wear. They're wearing covered shoes, because covered shoes are stronger. If it lands on your foot, it's less likely to do damage. So think about writing your risk assessment in a way that communicates an understanding of how to prevent or protect you, prevent the risk or protect you if the incident did actually happen.